we're back in the studio. It's been we've been religiously releasing one episode every 2 weeks right now, so I'm very proud of this, that we have From 0 to 100 coming out this Wednesday again. So this is really good. I said that if it would be some sort of viewership that would be joining, I would keep producing. So it seems
nice. We're still going then.
Yeah, without getting any stats out, I think we're doing okay. We're gonna continue. We got some water in front of us in case you're feeling you need to drink something. These cups, by the way, do you we have them at the office. They have different messages on them.
I have one as well, just doesn't show.
Yeah. What does it say?
I'm a bearer of good stuff.
Is that gonna be the story the whole week for me?
Yeah, I'm bringing good stuff all the time.
I'm having another one right now. It's called Instant Genius. I didn't get to pick the cups today. It was actually Damien that came down and picked the cups for us.
I'm happy with mine. So.
Yeah. When you come to the office and you go into the kitchen, do you consciously pick the color of your cup?
Yes, I do. And I noticed I've been picking green and yellow more frequently than other colors.
Green and yellow.
Yes.
It's quite funny because we have, how many colors we have? We have the green, we have the yellow, we have the red, orange, blue. That's it, right?
Yeah.
Are we missing one? No, I think that's it.
That's it.
I have noticed how I'm definitely it's a mood cup. I'm depending on like what zone I'm in when I'm coming into the office and I'm making my first coffee. It's very different which one I'm doing.
Don't you ever like try to match it with what you're wearing as well, or like the mood that?
No, never what I'm wearing. It's always what I'm thinking, like my current state of mind. If I'm feeling very happy, I pick the yellow one. If I'm feeling like very like empathic and like
and you're picking it based on the color or based on the message?
I'm very color driven, but the message is actually highly like associated with it as well. I think the yellow one is sip up, so it's a bit funny, right?
I think it's called sip happens.
Sip happens, actually. You're right. Sip up. It's like, that sounds weird. Okay, enough about cups. We have, so essentially we are running this podcast series from 0 to 100. I've now had a meeting with Patrick, our CTO. I've had a meeting with Juan, and now I'm going to sit down with you. Nicky, you are the CFO of Fast Track, and you've been with Fast Track for 9 years. The purpose why we started setting up this initiative was a little bit inclined towards, we have gone through like a massive AI transformation in the company. We are adopting AI native ways of working. And I wanted to find an opportunity to talk more openly about the challenges and the speed of change that are happening inside Fast Track, and how we're thinking about change, how we think about leadership, how we approach technology, and various different things. And I think today is going to be a really interesting conversation because you have a very unique perspective. I have very rarely seen a CFO on a podcast in general. Obviously, being the money man, Mr. Cash, in terms of Fast Track right now, it gives a little bit of a different perspective on change.
Yeah. No, we're happy to speak to you in this session. We speak all the time, so it's a bit like funny for me, like speak to you in this setting. But I'm very happy to entertain this podcast idea. So
good.
And excited to see it.
And different from the previous episodes, you learn, you grow, you correct your errors, and then like essentially fail fast, right? And I was feeling that for the coming episodes, I'm going to have a little bit more structure. So this time around, let's see how it works out. But I have 12 different topics that we're going to go through today. I'm not going to read them out and do a whole agenda and stuff like that. But there is a lot of really interesting things. I want to look at your journey with Fast Track. And I guess everyone is interested about your journey, but in particular around what we can take away from a leadership perspective in terms of us growing as individuals, maybe being another Nicky in another organization or a Nicky inside Fast Track right now. How can you set yourself up for success? So I want to focus on that. Then I have we want to talk a bit about attitude. I think we have a lot of similar views on attitude, so I think we exchange thoughts on that. We have a little bit on budgeting. I wanted to
always
go into budgeting. Budgeting is always fun. I think Fast Track has been very good at budgeting. Why are we good at budgeting? What are we doing differently? What's our playbooks and what can we share? What insights and so on? I want to talk about that. Then I want to talk about innovation and innovation versus commercial. So I'm talking about here is more, we're pushing a lot of new products out to the market. We keep kind of introducing what we call game-changing products to the market. We're not always charging up front for these type of things when we're doing innovation. I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about the future of finance. So I want to dig into, especially your space a little bit and what we have set up and how we do it at Fast Track and see what's our vision, where are we heading from here, what are the different things that are coming in. But let's start with you, Nicky, a little bit. So you started with Fast Track, what is it, 9 years?
9 years ago now.
You were employee number...
Come
on, like you don't know.
We were like 5 in the office. So
we were 5 in the office,
like
but
that.
do you count Sam as an employee at the time? I mean, we were all very early in the journey, but like, okay, just a little bit of context. So you have me, Chris, and Hans, right, founding the company, and then we have Sam, who is Chris's brother, and Chris's brother Sam, he was supposed to go to university at the time, but he needed a summer job, and he helped out with a lot of content and stuff like that, and you came in at the same time as him, right?
Yeah, it was 2017. I'm quite sure it was roughly the same period.
Yeah. And you came out of some sort of you were doing really well. You were doing your studies and what were you studying?
I was studying mathematics and statistics at the time, and then it was like I think mid-degree, exactly in the halfway point, and I also wanted to start getting some experience in the industry. And
do you think people want to know a story here now? Do you know how you got the job at Fast Track?
Funny story.
Yeah.
I was always like...
I've always wanted to hear your perspective on this.
No, but like... okay, so I will tell you something also that I never told you before while saying this story, so this will be fun. Spilling out some secrets as well. So your landlord, actually.
Yes, this I know.
He happens to be my wife's grandfather. And I was having a casual chat with him, speaking about my studies. And I told him, like, I want to put these in practice. And he said, but where? And at the time, the iGaming industry and Malta was booming very much so. And I said, and he was like, yeah, my tenant, he has an iGaming company. Shall I set you up? I was like, go for it. A couple of days later, I get a phone call.
yeah, but it's not like from my side of things. Like Tony can be quite pushy, right? I mean, when he wants something, you can tell that he's been a very successful businessman and that whole family, because they're very like, he's great, he's really funny. But he sent me a message, and it's one of those messages when you receive it, typically you want them to go away, like. Like, you get a message from your landlord, like, oh, I have a nephew of mine and he needs a job. Like, can you should, he's the smartest in the class.
And of course you need to say that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who wouldn't say that about my... So I don't know how it happened. It was just, I think I was just being, okay, I meet him because I was a bit afraid of Tony. Like, I didn't want to say no to him. And then I met you. You met together with Chris, or without?
Yeah, it was you, Chris and Hans, actually.
Oh, it was all three of us.
In that old Bisatsa offices.
Yeah. Bisatsa 40, what was like 35, like humble beginnings.
Two-room office.
A two-room office with a sliding door in the kitchen where you could walk in on anyone that was currently doing whatever they were doing at the toilet. Kitchenette. It wasn't a kitchen. It's like...
But it was fun. And I remember you calling, and then I hadn't really worked in like the industry to this extent before. So then you're like, are you good with data? Yeah, with SQL? Yeah, for sure. I never touched a line of SQL.
It's like hanging up. It's like, let's start Google.
And then, and then I took it like I do everything in life. I just went for it. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that hard. Okay. And then,
good.
No,
but at that time we were sitting we had these like IKEA desks that we mounted up ourselves, and we got some monitors and whatnot. And I remember when you started, we were just launching, or we had launched our first client, or just launching. It was kind of in the beginning.
You had
I think we were quite happy to get someone that was on what do you call it, like an when you're out of school and you're getting internship, right? Because if the financials of that made a lot of sense for Fast Track at the time. We didn't have that much money back then, sitting in our small offices, which I'm hearing actually has always also been where Evolution started off. I don't know if that's true.
Oh,
yeah. So apparently another gaming company was using the same office, like this, 35 square meters, or 40. It might have been smaller actually.
A very small office.
Yeah. Okay, enough about offices and stuff like that. You got into Fast Track. You've been with Fast Track 9 years now, but you were not maybe in the eyes of, you've had a long journey. You might not have been in the traditional sense the choice for a CFO, but for me it was very easy to like kind of start thinking about that. And I also like when when you take an opportunity to take something that is very established and is supposed to work in a certain way to then challenge that and come up with a new solution. And I think that you're a little bit a product of that, to be honest, like for good or for bad, but I think it's great and it's turned out great for you.
Yeah.
But what's been your journey? Like, what was your journey with
No,
Fast
I
Track?
think like from the very beginning, even like in that old Pisat's office, I had always been like working with the data of Fast Track and investing in that. I kind of immediately knew, or after a couple of months working with you and Chris specifically, I could sense that there's opportunities here. The way like the kind of questions you were asking, the projects that you were giving, and then I could sense the way this company makes decisions is going to benefit a lot from having a data guru at the time. So that's where I started, and then kind of like throughout the journey, you could say I touched practically every piece of this business.
So you worked as the internship as, I mean, of course you worked with data initially. You set up kind of the whole, at the time we were using ClickView or ClickSense. ClickSense was their new web portal of Click, which is a data visualization platform that grown into a really big company. But we used that in order to set up kind of dashboarding to be able to have real-time reporting on the different operators that was working with us at the time to be able to provide them with insights and ourselves. Okay, and then you moved on. What was the second thing that you did in Fast Track?
Then we launched the data team at the time. So I did a bit of data science.
It's like a data science team and stuff like that.
Data science and data and insights. That's kind of, you could say, like my first exposure to the product, the customer-facing products as well, because that's like when we started working on the FTML initiative. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's still like one of my favorite workshops that we ever had. Like that was like such a typical Fast Track situation, where it's like how it happens is that Fast Track machine learning came up as an idea of, I'm sidetracking, but I'm just going to sidetrack a little bit. It was just like waking up one morning and it's like, no, we need to build a platform that is able to do kind of self-learning, right? And then we went into a room and we closed that room, and then we were like whiteboarding, like until we had something to build.
Exactly, and that personally, it was like the first kind of exposure that I had into like this project and product in Fast Track. But for the product itself, I would say this was the birth of the singularity model as well. That's kind
absolutely.
That's the same kind of workshops that we were doing that led to.
It had quite an interesting journey, because Fast Track ML, like Fast Track machine learning as a platform, is today used broadly and by every platform, every operator, and every partner that we're using, because it's core part of the architecture. But back then, and it manifests itself as the singularity model. But back then, it was kind of a project that then later we built a lot on it, but then it became the singularity model, and then we put like the Fast Track ML kind of piece a little bit on hold whilst we were like kind of evolving singularity model as a product. So it was quite exciting time. And you were leading kind of the data team back then. Yes, that's true. So you were kind of into the product, but you continued on the data track, and then
and then continued transitioned more to the more wider product in a producer role. At Fast Track.
Producer role. We have like, so we don't have a traditional product management role in Fast Track. We don't have product owners. We don't have product managers. We don't have Scrum masters. We don't believe in that. We believe in that you sort of want to have an individual that has as much autonomy and ownership and context as possible to be able to drive a product from idea to finish themselves. And we want to keep those, so the producer role was created, which is like kind of a combination of all of the roles that you need in product.
Yeah, and it suited me very well at the time as well. I like to be able to take a problem from beginning to end and see the delivery throughout. It gives me like so much pleasure when I see the complete, the output ultimately of what we have worked on. That gives me the most pleasure. And at the time, it also like opened opportunities for me to like touch on other areas of business. So being in the product, then you start getting dragged into these product demos in commercial, and then you get a bit of that feel. And then there's an integration problem, and then you need to like look at it from a product perspective, and you get that feel. So it's a very much encapsulated a lot of the different parts of the business, and for me that was a great opportunity to now continue in my Fast Track exploration. And obviously I was building experience throughout the time. And then
what happens to like your own confidence as well when you're building kind of such a, I mean, data is typically a place where you build a really good understanding of everything that is going on. But then even as you're saying, you go into a product type role, you go in to start participating in commercial, demos, you start speaking to partners, like doing a lot of other things. Like surely that builds a lot of confidence, like just exposure.
Yeah, it's like everything. Like the more experience you are getting, it's a loop, right? You go in.
Are we gonna talk about loops today? It's a lot of loops now, agentic.
It's the buzz right now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a bit like that, and the confidence naturally builds. Being in data, I guess there's like other aspects of that. Like I know you are like me. Like when you see a number, you want to drill into everything, and there's always that element that you actually see it. The numbers cannot lie. So yeah, there's that element too.
No, but exactly. And then you were working as a producer for quite some time, and you were working on, I would say, very technical, very data deep products typically that you were involved in. Was it straight after that you started as head of business operations?
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with you.
I don't remember this yet. I should remember.
Yeah, it's a couple of months before I transitioned into head of business operations, where we were speaking about my experience in Fast Track, and we've always been having very open conversations, you and I, and one of I remember us discussing like what my future at Fast Track looks like.
I remember this now. I remember it.
And at the time I was very happy, like in where I was, and speaking very openly with you, I had said like, for me, if it's not Fast Track, the only thing I see myself doing is my own thing.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of where we started discussing, my exposure to the business, the product side as well, but also different parts. Then it makes sense for me to like step into a more elevated head of business operations role at the time, where I could oversee multiple areas, particularly the finance function. And that kind of like that's the start of where I was always involved in some way in the finance, but that's like the first real ownership within a finance. And you could say that naturally.
But that's just because we're weird. No, but it is. Like, first of all, let's get onto that a little bit. Like the head of business operation, we didn't have a CFO. No. We never had a CFO in Fast Track until very recently, right? And so it's like, okay, what does that mean? Well, that means that the CEO is the CFO, or like you have someone else that is in another role, and that person is the CFO. So many people have been, having opinions. Like many times when they don't understand the business or they understand the capacity, I think a lot of people from the outside looking in, and they look at kind of CEOs in general or other things, like if you don't have a CFO, your finances are not properly run, and I think that's a misconception, to be honest. There has never been a time and place in Fast Track where, like, now I've handed it over to you, but I've never been in a position where I didn't know every single euro where it was going.
Yeah, and I could sense working with you in CFO capacity. You know every number to this day, maybe to some less extent, but you know everything that is going on.
But it
speaks.
But it's interesting. I mean, it's like kind of it's never been something that I've done. You know what I mean? It's completely natural to me. I mean. Maybe it has to do something with like the understanding that you need to have in order to run an efficient business. I mean, I'm rooted in that understanding that you need to have a very detailed understanding of your context in order to be able to make the right decisions and be able to do things and navigate. And for us, there is, of course, it takes up time. Okay, that's an issue, right? Like from my perspective, it was an issue not having a CFO before because it took time from me. But because of the fact that I had high trust with the board and high trust with my shareholders, like obviously we're quite few of us because it was Fast Track is the co-founders and so on, and it's very much of a bootstrap mentality. So it's not that many people to look after. But I always felt that if you're able to communicate the expectations really clearly, and if you're on top of everything, people are not really going to bother you.
Yeah, and then from actually running it, your understanding of the business is as deep as it gets. So even to that extent, you could.
But this is one of the things that has been that for me you have done as well, right? Because you've been whenever you don't know something, it's like you get really knowing you and speaking about something, and you look at your face when you don't know something. It's almost like you get very angry inside, or like you get very triggered by that, and you want to get to know something. Is that like
There's an element of like not accepting that you cannot know it. It's a mentality, I would say. Like every time you are facing a problem, there's two ways to go about it. You could say like, this is not really my cup of tea, and then you give it to someone who can do it, or you get to me it gets really frustrating not knowing something. I need to know. So what I do when I have this kind of problems is that I need to stop and then think like, okay, who knows this? Like how do they know it? And then you start asking questions. You start speaking to people, getting context, and then you start building towards. And it's a mentality of maybe not settling, maybe not saying yeah, sure. It's like no, I need to know.
I mean, trusting the fact that you're able to learn something new. I mean, I've always been very confident in my own ability to learn something that I don't know. And you have a little bit of a similar type of attitude. You're talking about it now, like having that kind of confidence in ability to learn something new. A lot of people, when you get advice, and that's why advice can be really hard. Like when you're talking to, board advice, or you're talking about other things. And what I struggle with a lot is that a lot of people always think that you should seek some external, kind of help with all of the things that you don't know. That seems to always be the solution. When I'm coming across advice from people outside of the business or people that don't understand the details themselves, they want to buy the knowledge.
Yeah, and I guess there's an element of like the best advice you can get. Okay, the external advice is good, but the best advice you can get to a specific situation is from someone who actually has full context into that situation.
100%. And this is something that has like been very true to my own way of approaching things as well. Also, the hardest thing sometimes to convince people to be on board with, like from an outside perspective. You say that you're doing something for the first time. Let's say that you're buying a company. All right. That might be the first time we're buying a company, and it's going to be a bit messy. So what you might do is that you're thinking, I'm going to go, or someone might give you advice. You need to bring someone on board that knows how to buy companies. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that is not valuable, but it's far more valuable if you dare to put yourself up against the challenge and just say, you know what, I'm going to read up on everything. I'm going to start thinking about our context in what we want to do and carve out a path on how we are going to buy a company.
Yeah, and that's the difference. It's like where you stand. Bringing an expert on it, sure, there's
but sometimes people do recruit, like just put them inside, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have zero cultural awareness, they have zero kind of how do we do work type of things, and also the work in general outside of at least our context of Fast Track. You haven't really been working in other places, but I can tell you it's quite low. And I've almost always been disappointed by the fact that I'm bringing in a person that is supposedly an expert in an area, because I'm expecting that person to outsmart me in terms of the areas that we are in, right? So, and that's that's okay, right? Yeah. If I'm saying that I want to buy, I want to learn how to buy companies, and then I'm getting expert into that. What I'm learning is that it's actually better to put up a network. So you start building, and just like you do with everything else in life, you have to just accept that I'm gonna be the one doing this. I'm gonna be the one buying companies. My CFO is gonna be the one buying companies and helping me with this. I'm just using this as a figure of example. We're not buying any companies right now. At least nothing we're gonna talk about here. But as just as an hypothetical, at least. It's interesting thinking about that, because whenever you approach growth personally, I've always thought there are different people that I learn different things from, and sometimes even the person that I, despite the most or I don't like anything of, there's still things that I learn from that person, like whether it be rhetorics or how they communicate, or whether it be, and I might actually don't like anything about them or about what they do, but there are still something that you can learn and take away. Yeah,
and I share that with you. I think that's a good way to approach things in general, and doing it yourself. Yeah, I mean, if there's a capacity, but doing it yourself, then because you have all the context, then you can get knowledge from people as you require, but then ultimately best of what you actually want, and
no, exactly.
And that's how I
no, but it's been because this is we approach problems in a very similar way in that sense. But I've always been, and coming back to what's hard sometimes to manage with other people, is that when you know you're capable of doing it yourself, but other people might not be trusting that process, right? Sometimes can be a bit tricky because it's like, oh, you don't have the experience, you've never done this before, and for that reason, that would be a good answer to why you wouldn't manage. It's bullshit.
And that frustrates me so much if I ever in that, because I know what I know, and I know what I don't know.
Exactly.
On a particular problem, right? So if I don't know, I'm going to tell you I don't know, and then I will make a plan on how I manage to get there. So it's really frustrating being having someone on the other side and not believing, but when you fully know
Exactly.
that you are capable.
No, and sometimes it's just about trusting yourself, and I think anyway, coming back to kind of your journey, and we're gonna kind of wrap that up. So you were working as a head of business operations. You started getting exposure to. This was where we were awkward. I said, like, we're a bit weird as a company because we didn't have a CFO and so on. This head of business operations kind of position was very much dealing with commercial escalations. It was dealing with business performance overall. What else? Accounting? Was
the finance.
Yes, finance function. So it was very operational, but very tied to the money and very tied to the data. And we started approaching work in a completely different way. Quite an exciting position. You knew coming into the conversation when you were talking about your future, you knew the plan was already set for you, right? No, I'm just kidding. Little bit.
But it was.
I'm wondering what you could have told me in that meeting that would have been like, no, I'm going to pull the plug. I'm not going to give you this job. I think that was always, I had a plan for that one, because it was when we were thinking about, like, I remember having the conversation, that would be great for Nicky. Like, I was just thinking, okay, how do I get Nicky into believing that this is great for him too? Because I wholeheartedly believe that the head of business operation was perfect for you. Like, in terms of your what do you call it, versatility? Like the different kind of, you know,
I could argue that role was a bit almost crafted for me.
Well, there you go. So maybe not. But anyway, and then now it's been a while. I mean, CFO.
Yeah, I mean, this was, like, you could say, like the biggest leap responsibility-wise.
Yeah. What's been the most shocking to you coming into C-level? Has there been anything that has been like, oh shit? Like,
I really, like, work-wise, I mean, the path was very much set, and I could say, like, the business operations role was very much preparing me for this. It's the level of responsibility that obviously grew with it. Like you said before, when you don't have a CFO, you're the CFO.
Yeah.
And now there's one. So you know, that comes with weight, and I don't. You know me. I don't take any weight lightly. But and then there's, you know, other kind of conversations that typically I wouldn't be having that now I get dragged into in that capacity. But yeah, it's been,
because we have I mean, the C-level team, we always feel like we want to have more C-level. Like, I think we always feel like, oh, wouldn't it be great to, like, but in all, I think we are a very good team. And we work very well together, and there is a very high trust environment in terms of, like, the people that are in that room, and we have very high ceiling.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it works. You need that good trust, and you need to be able to, like, work together like that for it to function. And that you know, coming into the C-level team, you know, I can sense that as well.
No, it's good, and I think everyone was, you know, thinking that, okay, it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts into this environment and, like, sitting in these meetings and this part of these conversations. But I think everyone has been shocked by how quickly you started contributing into that as well. So it's like really, really cool to see, and very good. And I think, like, I feel very comfortable in terms of, like, where we're taking the business and what you're doing from a CFO perspective. And I know you're taking such a different approach with it. And that's what I want to get onto a little bit. I was thinking, like, as an exercise, I want to talk about budgeting, because from 0 to 100, we're talking about you know, kind of the context of high growth and high change, or high pace of change, going essentially from 0 to 100. And right now we're dealing with the AI transition in fast track. So we have a lot of change going on across the organization, and it's very hard to plan when the plan doesn't work. I think we have felt that a lot.
Yeah. No, because you come into the year, the period, you know, thinking with a set of assumptions, right? And you know, things move fast, and both outside and in fast track as well. So some things you don't really know until you're actually in it. So that's like budgeting becomes still very important, but becomes very tricky exercise to do, especially as you start getting new information that you didn't have before. That said, I would say we have a very good budgeting process.
We are very good at budgeting. I think I'm proud to say that we're quite good at budgeting. Do you want to hear about the first forecast that we put together? So, we did not the first forecast. That would be actually we had forecasts from day one. But I remember that there was a presentation at one point in 2018. During that time, can you imagine that Fast Track had black slides? Do you remember? Actually, because you remember that we had the cheetah as a logo, and then we had Fast Track, and then we had simplifying the casino business as a tagline. And then we had the black presentations. So it was like with white text. It was Montserrat as a font. I was very much in love with it back then, not very much in love with it anymore. And we put together a graph. It was a... which we used, I think this was when we were raising money the first time, just to get a little bit of money to help us launch Fast Track CRM in the market, because going to ICE and doing trade shows is very expensive. Yeah. And we made one of those year 1, year 2, year 3, and we said, I think there was a landmark when we were going to reach 10 million euro ARR. And looking back and overlaying that graph, it fits perfectly.
Yeah. I have to say, I was impressed myself when I pulled up like those historical numbers and seeing you hitting like that. And
that's not normal, by the way. That's like kind of me. It was very much a guessing game in terms of like where we're gonna go. You put up these fancy graphs, and I don't think anyone hits them, but we did.
Yeah, and I have to, like, we're always very good at hitting them. I know at the time, back in my some other capacity I had, I remember like doing revenue forecasts for us, based on data that we had at the time. But I never really thought much about it, about how we were tracking against them. And then you look back 5-6 years later and you see, oh, okay. And I think an element of that comes from how well you, as a CEO, understand the business. And I think like maybe that's what makes Fast Track special in this budgeting process. The knowledge of our knowledge of the business, your knowledge and my knowledge as well now, in understanding all of the underlying mechanics of the business, it's a difference maker, and then you know.
There is a couple of things like in terms of doing successful budgeting that I think is important. You're touching on one of them right now, which is our obsession about understanding the details of the business, in effect, how they relate to what type of drivers you have.
Yeah,
underlying drivers. And then I guess reading a little bit into having a good stomach feel a little bit as well in terms of where things are heading, because you don't always have the data points that you need in order to do successful budgeting, but you will see that, are we trending in terms of our recruitment in Barcelona? Are we trending in where are we flowing? But more important than anything, I think, is actually thinking, using the historical data. Like I've always been against scientific budgeting when it starts going. I've seen it happen in companies that I've worked in the past, large companies.
And by scientific, you mean going into every little...
It's about building a model. Yeah. What I'm not saying that all models are bad, don't get me wrong, but like essentially crafting a budget that looks at the future based on, assumptions that are trickling down like through a funnel and then ultimately achieving a number. I think these type of mechanics and algorithms and funnels and building formulas are great. Do 5 of them, different ones, and then use it to validate the budget. But the historicals data is never going to lie.
Yeah, you don't really want to be in a situation where you're over-engineering your budget. It's good, and we do have as well ways to triangulate against the budget. But like you said, like the data doesn't lie, and I think that has worked exceptionally well for you in the past. And
so let's break it down a little bit. Like how do we approach budgeting then?
Yeah, I think like the way I am doing it now is like I use historical data to get me like what the current baseline is. Okay, and then we have our different drivers of the business. we start always like with the revenue. That's where like
yeah.
the
So
best
you have to separate kind of revenue versus cost,
Yeah.
and then you have different drivers of revenue, and obviously it's different doing an income statement budget or like essentially budgeting the income versus budgeting the cash flow, which is
those
kind
are,
of two separate
they're
exercises.
separate processes. They're very much related, but they are separate process, and we have different ways of looking at them as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of like starting from the income statement, because that's always where we start as well, is that it's going into each area and then understanding like the drivers of it. So the historical data gives us very good read of where we are and a very strong read on like where we're going to be in the current year. But then we are looking, okay, what if something changes in our hosting? How does that go to impact the picture? What's driving the headcounts in the different parts of the organization? Marketing. How are we looking in terms of like trade shows that we are doing? What are we adding? How are they performing? And going into the detail as required. And I think one thing that has been working very well for us as well in terms of tracking against those budgets is getting data to feedback.
Yeah.
Setting the budget is one thing. Tracking against it can get tricky, especially when you don't know the full picture. What we've been very good at, especially like in the current months, in the last few months, is actually getting feedback into the budget, and that's been working
It's super
very
important.
well.
No, but it's super important. I think at least the income is relatively easy in a software company as us. In terms of like we have subscription based income in Fast Track. It's recurring nature. It's quite easy, to kind of model how the revenue is going to look like in the future. But I don't think I would do it any differently if I was an iGaming operator or a sports book or a casino or anything like that. I would still rely on my historical data as a reference point in order to make the relevant assumptions. And it's important that those assumptions are rooted in something a data point that is proven, that is mature and proven. Like inventing a new data point. For example, like Fast Track, when we were a bit smaller as a company, we were focusing a lot more on contracted ARR, for example, like annual recurring revenue on a contract basis, like kind of because we didn't really have the revenue realized yet because we were early in our phase. But now, obviously, we are completely focused on annual recurring revenue as a revenue times 12. And that mechanic, when we introduced ARR as a metric, as a business, you're approaching a data point for the first time. You have to learn how it behaves. You have to learn how it moves, and all of these different things. It's super difficult to like start budgeting on it. So I think use your proven data points in terms of doing it, and it's easy. But then so let's say, and that's also quite interesting now. Like thinking about the complexity from an operator's perspective, right? It's just so exciting what's going to happen with True Value now when we get this rolled out across the whole industry. So for context, for anyone that is listening and might not know what True Value is, we have spent a number of years now developing a new data model that is called True Value, or we've named it True Value, and it's kind of a product out of kind of the Greco, the gameplay risk engine, and the Greco product that we've been building. We've then put our data science team together with the experts behind building a Greco to develop the True Value model, and it's kind of the industry's first. It's very comprehensive, but it identifies kind of the theoretical value of every player in the database, because.
Such exciting product, True Value. It excites me because it brings something that it's a different way of looking at it. It adds a completely new dimension.
But this is a good thing. Like when you were working in your first couple of years in Fast Track, we were working directly, much closer to the operators. We were part of like kind of the aspect of doing budgeting and doing financials and looking at it from an operator perspective. We know how fragile and how bad those budgeting processes are. We know that most of the discussions that you're coming into is that when the month comes to an end, there is still going to be subjective judgments and weird comments around like, why are we not reaching our revenue target? And having the right fundamental information to that equation is, of course, understanding the mathematics of gameplay, which is that there is volatility involved. There is a lot of different things. There is a lot of mathematical science around how
It's the nature of the industry as well. So
it's a game of chance.
Yeah, it has been difficult because of the
and the promotions.
And that puts you like whatever models you had, throw them out because that's going to put you off.
Yeah, exactly. But now we're bringing in like kind of this new model, which is called True Value model. And we've been piloting it with, I hope that's going to be made public quite soon in terms of the case study because it's going phenomenally well. So we're working with with a tier 1 operator or a part of a tier 1 operator. And we're working with True Value and calculating True Value. We have our experts kind of involved in the process and we are passing on recommendations. I know that we found, for example, that there was more than thousands of VIPs or high-value players, potential high-value players that were not being bonused in the right way, were not being approached and marketed to in the right way because they were not qualified as kind of in casino terms, if you may, someone that is losing money and generating income for the casino. But if they would play 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times over the same gameplay that they've done in the past, they would be hugely important customers for the operator. Yeah. This intelligence, can you imagine just having?
It's extremely, extremely promising. So I'm very excited about what that's going to bring to the operators. But going back to the budgeting.
Yes, let's do that.
The methodology in itself works. The only thing that would change from how I was doing it versus an operator doing it is understanding the different drivers. Obviously, it's a lot more complicated because of these different volatility and the nature of.
But if you can drive conclusions on your previous historical data, if you can find metrics or drivers that are conclusive in kind of the result in how they're translating, either over a longer period or over that. You can use it. Yeah. It's fine.
100%, and then you will have you could take it to the micro level, and it could get very much more granular there, and it would, and different parts of.
So let's get into the fun stuff then, which is expenses. We have a lot of people. I mean, there's a big difference in a budgeting process between. I need to do budgeting to understand. That's my perspective. I need to do budgeting to understand my business. And then you have the operational aspect of budgeting, which is that we need to do a budget because we need to run this business in the right possible way. I mean, I think a lot of people get confused, especially when even sometimes our teams, we are not that good at managing that because everyone wants a budget, but I know the minute I give them money,
they're going to spend.
They are going to spend it, right? And that's why I'm always so. No, I don't want to give you money, unless I know for sure that you're gonna have a path in front of you. That's why the only thing that is kind of very there's two things I guess that is very consistent in Fast Track is kind of what AWS to a degree. And then you have marketing. I mean, we work obviously with AWS. Let's see if we continue working with AWS forever. It's quite it's a big partnership. We're very happy with that. But at the same time, it's obviously a big cost for us. But marketing is the other one. We do a lot of field marketing. It's very easy to measure. How much is it going to cost? When are the payments going to be made? Which trade shows are we going to attend? How many people are going? What's the policies? We have got really good at marketing we are on the penny pretty much. On terms of marketing.
Very, very good at following it. And
this is a typical example where we gave a budget. A person has a budget. It's always been like that. The marketing team has a budget.
And I think it works very well in that context as well.
Yeah.
There are other cost items where having maybe that strict budget doesn't work as well. But what we should have, and what we do have, and how we have been kind of doing in other areas of the business, having the right principles and approach.
That's it. Principles. Can I stop there just to kind of on that? Because principles is so important. When we are looking at Fast Track and anything strategic in Fast Track, for me, this is where I don't want to marry a process, all right? I want to marry a principle or I want to marry an outcome because those are fine. Processes are kind of a product that comes out of a principle. Now, now we need to have this repetitive and scalable. It becomes a process. But we have to be ready to throw out the process whenever it's not achieving the outcome.
The process in itself doesn't give us anything, right?
Nothing at all. And sometimes that can be very frustrating, especially for people that want a lot of structure to their work, right? But I believe that in most cases, principles can do the same thing. It's just about training a muscle that is kind of saying, all right, I'm going to build a set of principles with an outcome. Like I want to achieve this. These are my principles in how I want to operate and what I want to live up to, whether it's like promises and stuff like that. And then I build my process.
Yeah, and then, but that's important. Like, why do you actually need what the budget you're doing is for?
Exactly.
I mean, if it's for running your operation, in certain cases, these principles work perfectly fine.
I've had like this. Let's talk about people and budgeting around people and growth. This is really tricky, right? You have in our case, we have approached it that we've tried. I think at some points we've been pushed a lot in a direction where we want to have a budget, which is a very hard-coded budget. My perspective has always been, let's agree what the cost of a headcount is. Like let's agree on what type of benefits that we're getting, what type of, the cost of the office and all of these different things. And it's like, we can't control it. It's not like we're gonna, like the rent is X. Yeah. Like we've signed up a 5-year lease. Like if we're gonna pay that rent regardless of what happens. If we're saying we're working on laptops, like the principle should be that I have equipment in my day-to-day work that is, maximizing my performance as an employee. That's the principle. Yeah. If that's a MacBook or if that's a Windows or if that's something else, in Fast Track it's a MacBook because we have that community. And whether my MacBook needs to be changed, it's very difficult. As soon as you start saying, no, we have 20K to change equipment.
Yeah. And those kinds of situations, you approach differently. You have the employee experience set. You know what the employee experience looks like. And unless there's a decision taken to change that, you can kind of know what you get.
Exactly.
It's putting budgets on those kinds of things doesn't really add anything.
No, I don't think so. But I do think that when we're budgeting for people growth, again, looking back at the historicals, how we have done it, you and I, in the previous budgets was that we took a baseline in terms of how number of employees that we had at a given time. That would typically, if we do a yearly budget, then it would be from January until December of the following year. We would look at the headcount plan, an increase plan. So Fast Track has been growing, on average, maybe, 30-40% in people. Right now it's a bit different, given all of the AI transformations that are happening and stuff like that. So we're up for a new challenge kind of this year in terms of budgeting. But what we usually do is that we've mapped, okay, the organization is going to grow by 30%. And then looking back at the historical numbers, how much, did the we call it workforce as a cost item, how much did that increase during that period? Yeah. And we took all of the drivers that is connected to people and we connected that to one pot.
That works really well. It's, like you said, we never really had a specific budget, but we have been practically tracking that number very 100%. Well.
And the thing is, like, if we said that we were going to start at 130 people and then end at 170 at the end of 160 at the end of 2025. Typically, what happens is that as soon as you have to do a headcount budget, you of course, and we do that every quarter. We sit down and we say, what are the needs of the teams? How do we support this business? What have we learned now? And what do we need? And we need to look over everything because you also need to budget talent and acquisition. You need to know how many recruiters you need or how much marketing you need to do and brand and so on. So we always do that exercise. But the thing is, like, whenever you do that exercise, no matter how smart you are, you're always going to need all of the people that you think you need tomorrow. I've never been in a budget talking about people and headcounts and increase of team size where they didn't say that all of the 25 people that we needed them now.
Yeah. No.
Never happened.
That's very natural.
I get so excited about the prospect of having these people on board that no. The reality is that in order to hire people, you need to find people. They need to go through a process. Yeah. They have notice periods with other work. They have this. You have X amount of capacity in the recruitment team on how much you can hire. So by the end of the day, you do a headcount budget. Great, do it. Prioritize exactly what you want to hire in each team. Approach it pragmatically and go and make sure that you make the time to recruit. But it has nothing to do with the budget, from an income statement perspective.
And ultimately, you're going to be looking at a situation where you know what you are at today, and then you trying to get a good feel of where there's going to be like we were doing it like on an annual basis. Now we are looking at it. It's a different reality. It's a new challenge, as you said. But going into specifically which month it's going to be.
No.
It's not really.
It's a terrible way of doing it. The only time I did it was actually in the first 2 years of Fast Track. But it just ends up that you have this like granular, but you keep moving everything. It's not giving you a good read. I think you need to just practice, and then you need to build up a little bit of data. And when you have that data, you have to assume that kind of the cost is going to scale in a similar way that is done in the past. If you have similar pace of hiring as you had in the past, it's very simple. Then you look at the big drivers. It's like, okay, are we hiring in Malta? Are we hiring in Sweden? Are we hiring in Barcelona, in the US? Okay, is there a huge deviation from how much an employee costs in different areas? And of course, there is potentially in different geographical areas. Do we need to add any offices? I tend to separate that out as kind of a new track, a new investment, and we put that on a separate line, and then you have the growth on top of it.
And that works very well. So you have like the people side, and then you have like the fixed part, and then you have the employee experience.
So I mean, the budgeting process from a discovery perspective is really like the first step is challenging the principles that you put up. Like, we want to be this company, we want to offer these things, we want to have this type of office, we want to have this type of equipment. Does it hold up? That's a stress test. That's the first budget. The operational budget is then how is it implemented. That's a much more technical budget.
And then that's basically going to dictate, okay, we are expecting to spend this much, now we're at this. Did something structurally change? Do we need to reevaluate things? Because ultimately what's going to be, you do the budget as you say, at a higher level, and then as long as you have the good feedback systems in place to tell you if something is wrong, then you don't need to worry about it.
No, but the same goes for like, and then it's also like there is big and small. There's big and small. Like, there are certain things that are like, okay, how much, what are one-way doors and what's two-way doors? Like, it's a very good principle in terms of to approach spend as well. Like, if you're buying a software that you can remove tomorrow, why read into too much? I mean, by the end of the day, like, what's the purpose? The purpose is to grow the company. The purpose is for us to become more efficient. Is this an opportunity to do so? Yes. Okay, cool. Do we have a mechanic to then see whether that is actually needed in the future? In that case, rip it off. But like, just do it. Like, I mean, go get stuff done. I mean, by the end of the day, that's kind of what we want to do. We don't want to be tied up. Oh, I'm running out of budget. So now suddenly this person is not going to get his laptop.
That's where the principles come very handy. You don't need to be like micromanaging every little piece of spend. That's just going to
and I think like it's been I think it's as clear now when we were at 10, 20, 30 million ARR, like it wasn't really not any difference. It was always the same approach. So I think that's really cool. And I think what is our thinking on spend now in the AI transition? I think a lot of people are like thinking, software is dead. No one is going to spend any more money at software. Blah, blah, blah. We just use AI to rebuild something. I guess it's true to a degree. But I mean, if we just revisit what we are looking at, replacing and not replacing, I mean, accounting system has never even been discussed, not once right now.
I would say any system that is core, you shouldn't even be considering all of the friction that creates. Why would
yet, at least. I mean, it's like we can't say forever.
Yeah.
I mean, but right now, that's never been in focus. And then sometimes these exercises makes it more clear what's core and what's not core.
Exactly. And I think like the main principle in this case is that it's not like we're not going to stop using software. It's not like software is not going to be used.
We're using more software than ever.
Why do you need it? What are you trying to accomplish? And what value is the software that you're using bringing?
Exactly.
And whether you keep a certain solution or build an alternative, it comes down to different cases. Then you need to see like what's core, what doesn't make sense to rip out, what does make sense to rebuild, what additional value do I get from rebuilding something that we were previously licensing, and you make that decision. And as long as you know what you're trying to accomplish with that piece of software, then you have the good foundation of what's going to drive those decisions.
100%. No, I agree with you. I think I'm just looking back at kind of the AI transition in Fast Track. Obviously, we have transitioned 100% to agentic and AI-driven development. So that's been a huge shift. We have introduced a lot of new tech, I would say, out of the AI transition rather than we have been removing. I mean, and consolidating and removing. I think there is it's just a lot of problems that has been solved with not necessary. It's not that important anymore, but it's typically been quite surface level, quite simple solutions to put together, and also lack of innovation. I mean, when you're looking at partners, think of, if we're looking back historically, just reflecting a little bit now, we always have, we have the expertise to do on-prem hosting, for example. Right? No, but we do. I mean, we have the expertise, we got the people, we got the teams, we got the money, we got everything. We could do it tomorrow, right? I don't know if AWS knows that or not, but that's the truth, right? But we have chosen to be a partner of AWS. Why do we continue being a partner with AWS? If you actually break it down a little bit, it's quite interesting. They kept innovating. They kept introducing every single quarter, every single 6 months, whatever. They keep innovating. They keep bringing us new database technology, new managed solutions for Kafka, whatever, which allows us to innovate faster.
The reality is that you're getting value out of it, and that's the difference. If I have a provider, you mentioned AWS, how does bringing me solutions, it's solving my problems, and it's giving me something over doing it myself.
Exactly.
Then I go for it.
But it's also like that innovation and being a partner in innovation, right? If I'm looking at some of the software that are getting cut right now, I don't think I've seen any features that has been evolved from that. I mean, Miro is getting cut in fast track because we feel we have something similar. Git book or something, we have some stuff for documentation that we've used in the past. We're cutting that. We have, there's a lot of softwares that are like kind of, they were quite interesting in the beginning, but they've proven themselves, not really driving any innovation or solving any new problems. And then ultimately you get to a point where, okay, I know how to do this now, so there is no innovation and nothing going on. And for that reason, I'm going to leave it. And also the core systems, they are very much like, they're kept in place, like our I don't know, the systems that we use for sales and other things like I haven't been very motivated to cut them, to be honest. Like it's been good. However, we've introduced so much new technology. Like since the year shifted, and we're going to come on to a little bit of finance as well, but let's not do that yet. But like we have developed our own expense applications. We have done our own documentation. We've done our own we have extended crazy the whole internal kind of home that we have. We are investing in super agents right now in order to run the business. That's very exciting, by the way. That almost deserves its own topic a little bit.
You could do another podcast.
Yeah, exactly. And every single team, I mean, the marketing team, they built up like an entire application where they're tracking all of the events, the planning, the budgeting, the whole thing. You have built a CRM for collection. We have done. All of these systems are very good. They are operational. They're used every day.
And the different teams.
Forecasting, budgeting, like
I know integrations have a good system to track progress as well.
Self-testing integrations. We've done CLI, investing in CLI so that we can do and manage all of the environments. There's so much innovation.
And as long as, different teams, they have their own problems and they're going to do whatever works for them. And it's good that we allow those people to experiment in this way.
Yeah.
What's going to happen following that is that this problem is being solved this way. Anything else that remains, okay, so what value are you bringing? That's where you cut.
Yeah.
then it kind of automatically separates the good from the
bad. But I mean, everything that is going on right now, we are just building. We have such a grand vision in terms of how we want everything to work, that everything in the company is interlinked, right? And we're building these super agent capabilities right now, and we already have that tested. Like it's in my palm. I have it in my phone. Like our own version of Fast Track AI that is currently fueling all of Fast Track. It's joining our meetings. It's like taking all of the notes. It's connecting all of our databases. It's like it's giving us that incredible context that we built up. And again, it comes back to a foundation that has been built up over such a long time that has enabled us to move very fast when it comes to all of these different pieces.
In this age, if I may call it, having done those investments and having good structure in your data, having good data infrastructure, as we call it, is going to reap a lot of benefits that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
I think it's like actually that's our biggest asset, that is able us maybe the fact that we've never compromised or taken any shortcuts when it comes to the foundation of the company and like how that is all being set up, how kind of call it the customer model, the data about how we treat our own data, of course I'm talking about, and how that is all linked up and how we are kind of logging interactions, how we are logging everything that is happening, and how we are now able to pull all of that intelligence together. I think it's super exciting.
Yeah, no, but it's the fuel to the whole engine, having that data structure in place.
So let's return to finance a bit then. So what's the I mean, you could argue that we are doing pretty well. I mean, okay, I give some context. We just closed the quarter. Yeah, and we have a very, very nice full IFRS kind of formatted, super beautiful interim report that we want to send to all of our shareholders. Very similar to the process of a public company or something like that. We go through a process where we have to get that signed off by the board, and before that's done, we need to consolidate 10 companies globally and get all of the numbers in, and all of the rest of it, right? In order to put this piece of document together, and I mean, we circulated that on the 4th of July.
On the 4th. No, there's a.
That's when I spoke to people before, they said that's not normal.
there's elements that goes into that. Maybe we can touch a bit. You mentioned it's 10 group companies that we are actually consolidating. So it's a bit of a process, and every company has their own accounting that needs to be closed.
And not all of them are using the same system either.
No, and that brings challenges. When you're doing consolidation, you need to map different charts of accounts in different companies to have a standardized format, and then you need to bring it up to the group level. And
so how do we overcome that then?
Yeah, and there's different pieces. One is like the process. We have very good teams that have now done this closing on the 1st. We've been closing religiously on the 1st of the month.
That's been a rule in Fast Track, right?
That
for a very long time.
When you've been doing that a long time, then you'd say it becomes a muscle almost, and there would be like different anomalies in different periods. But when you've been doing this consistently, then you are ready for it. And without that, you can't even speak about interim reports.
So the first step is like closing on the 1st.
So having good process, having good machinery, having the right people.
And we do that by having run sheets.
Exactly.
So it's like when you open, when does it run sheet start? Is it a week before closing or something like that?
So no, we have a month.
It kind of starts from the beginning of the month.
It's a monthly run, right? So we have like checkpoints throughout the month to make sure that we are doing everything that we need ahead of the closing, and at the quarter level then becomes even more elaborate. But having that process in place definitely helps. Then the technology. Doing something once is good. When you have something that you need to repeat, then you need to make sure that you're doing it really good. So one thing that we have evolved in the last couple of quarters now is our machinery and tooling to actually do consolidations. And historically, it was not a mess, but it wasn't so smooth.
It was how it usually is.
Yeah. You'd have like you export the different accounts,
trade balances from different accounts.
You put in spreadsheets, and you know how it goes. You have to,
and then you build up this like super big model,
big Excel sheet with formulas, and then you get confused. And it works, but the minute you want to change something or reiterate, then you need to like regenerate, and then it's a process in its own right. To me, as soon as you cannot change something and iterate quickly enough, then I stop.
Yeah.
Then it's not working properly.
Yeah.
So that's like I think we started in late last year. We started investing a bit in building tooling for doing consolidations, and Q1 report was the first time we actually put into practice. So now what happens is that following the closings of all of the company, all of the reports go into the consolidation tooling, and it's taking care of everything. So that's doing all of the eliminations between the companies, mapping the charts of accounts.
But no normal CFO would ever have built that. That's the thing, because they feel afraid about like, oh, tech, I don't know this stuff.
Yeah. No,
you know what I mean?
I take quite a bit of pride in bringing a new lens to the same problem. And it comes back to what I was saying earlier. If you accept that the problem cannot be solved in a certain way, then you're going to be stuck.
No, but this is like, and I think this has been kind of maybe on the flip side of not having a CFO. these were the things, like certain starting points of, like, for example, closing of the first. I was like, I remember having that conversation with the accounting team when we were like, it was 1 month when it didn't close on the first. And then I'm like, what is taking so long? Like, why am I not getting the numbers? Where is the number? No, but we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this. And it's just like, yeah, but I want to close on the first. No, but you cannot close on the first. What are you talking about? That's what they were telling me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Okay, so break it down for me. Go through it line by line. Tell me everything that you do.
And that's
and I was just like, you can do that one, you can do that on straight when it happens. Next one. This one, okay. Yeah, but I cannot. And then they almost try to challenge you. They find it a game to, like, almost come up with ideas. It's like, haha, but this one you cannot solve before the end of the month. And I'm like, yeah, you can, because you know roughly, for example, invoices that comes in after the first. Yeah. I mean, it's one problem, and I get it. Okay, like that's not ideal, but you can still estimate it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what invoices are coming. You need to know.
And when you've done it, and it's like you've done it so many times, doing an accrual for an expense that you expect, that becomes very...
But the thing is, like, this is the thing with objectives and why it's so exciting with a vision and, like, trying things that has never been done before. Because as soon as you say, I want to close on the first, and you're on the 14th, for example, or you want partners to integrate by a certain day, or you want to achieve this, whatever it might be, like, you have to put it out there and you have to start working with it. And then you start realizing piece by piece what's possible.
The key is to question. You need to like not settle and question, but why isn't it work? It happened again this time around. So last report we managed to get quite a good draft on the third, but then we had to like iterate a bit. And then this time around on the fourth it was shipped. Yeah. Okay. So one thing that immediately surfaced, like from going from consolidated numbers to the actual report in a nice way, layout and with the formatting and styling, is that the styling wasn't very flexible. So the minute, like, because this CEO letter is a bit longer than the other one,
and this used to be an InDesign file.
Yes, and I'm sitting there and look, okay, but why is it taking so long?
But this is the first time that you yourself opened the InDesign file. You usually had someone else doing that for you, and then you didn't really care.
It's like, I didn't care because it was getting done. And then when I go in and saying like, okay, we need to make a change because we got a new version of the letter. So, we need to like change the layouts of the boxes. No, we're not doing that. So then what we did is like we had to build a tooling to actually like have it auto resize and that's how problems are solved. Like if I had been happy and say, okay, I understand it takes a bit longer, you need to like put images, you need to do styling and all, that is going to take forever. You go in, this doesn't work, we need something better. And that's how new solutions are built.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of mentality.
So let's just circle back. How many problems do you think get solved if you're not involved in the details? All of the juice in a business is in the details. Always in the details. Like whenever I'm having like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like if we're having like a leadership conversation and then suddenly like collaboration between two different teams are not working, or whether, we're not achieving this outcome, achieving that outcome. You know what? Just go into it. You spend a little bit of time, not just talking about it, but show me. Like, no, okay. For example, if we would have a collaboration issue between a partner manager and an integration manager for a figure of speech, then and one side might be saying, oh, they are not following the process, and then the other team is saying that I'm not getting fast enough responses to help me, Both of them are right, okay? Like, okay, we have stuff that we need to look after and so on, but by the end of the day, the only one that wins is the partner, is the customer in this picture. The only thing I care about is whether they are getting the best possible service that they can ever get. So if I would go into the details, what I would do is that I would sit next to the integration manager that would potentially have an opinion about whether that partnership is going or not. And I would say, they would explain like, but they're not following the process. Okay, show me.
Yeah, and that's.
And then you go in, and then they open up. It's just like, but here, like, and he said, no, show me. And show me the example. Show me the situation that was so annoying.
But look, these details are what makes something that works to something great. If we're not asking this question, then you're just going to be stuck.
I completely agree.
And then, you get what you need to get done, but it's not the mentality that we need.
And it's just worth reminding everyone that all problems, even big or large, right now you have power. Like Nicky, it was actually, I think it was 1:00 in the morning on the 3rd of July is when you actually texted me. It's like, okay, here's the report. And I asked, oh, that looks actually really nice. And then it was just like, beep, InDesign, kind of threw that out. I built an application that is generating this for us. I don't think it's the most flexible foundation that is built up yet. It has a little bit of work to do, but it solved the problem. And that's the point. And it's like you identified a problem that needs to be solving. I think we're ending this on we need to start wrapping up, because the thing is, like, we've been talking for 1 hour and 9 minutes, almost 10, and we're gonna wrap up now. We're having a lot of fun. But obviously, I think this was really good. I'm actually really happy with this new format and everything.
A bit of structure, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of structure. We had a really good conversation. It was super good hearing kind of your background, your learnings, your kind of leadership tips. There's a lot of stuff like that. We talked about budgeting. We've been talking about kind of what software and tooling that is like kind of the winners and not the winners right now, how we're approaching change and kind of a little bit more examples around finance and what we're doing in that space. And I mean, we're just getting started right now. I mean, the delta between if we would have a conversation now and we have a conversation in 6 months, it would have been quite fun to actually reflect on what everything looks like, because things are changing so quickly for us right now. But thank you for joining me, Nicky.
Great pleasure.
Very nice.
Very interesting conversation.
Good. And thank you, studio crew that has been helping us put this together. And I think we're going to call this a wrap.
All right.
See you next time.
See you.